So good afternoon to everyone and welcome to this panel discussion which is in the backdrop of the third anniversary of Storage and Handling Knowledge Series. So while we are going to talk about the knowledge series in the later part of this discussion, so today we are going to use this platform which we have been using over the last 3 years to talk something about the intralogistics space. And because that is something which is so critical to the economy of the country. Recently, there was an article that India has just crossed a 3.75 trillion economy, and it is now the seventh largest economy, and it is in the aspiration of becoming a 5 trillion economy by 26-27, and crossing 7 trillion and becoming the third largest economy by 2030. Now, with that aspiration, nobody can miss out the logistics element of the GDP. Now, in the logistics element, we are slightly lacking a bit because our logistics cost as a percentage of GDP, as per the published reports, is about around 14%. And whereas in developed economies, it is in single digits. Now, when we talk about logistics optimization and getting into that journey of 7 trillion economy and becoming the third largest, intralogistics becomes a very important element of bringing down the logistics cost. So today we are going to talk on this topic, which is evolution of intralogistics, and we are going to have this quick chat on this particular topic. So I have the pleasure of having with me a very august panel comprising of three industry stalwarts. We have with us Mr. Siddiqui. So Mr. Siddiqui is having overall 33 years of experience in sales operations and business management, of which 30 years have been in the contract logistics, 3PL distribution and warehouse distribution. He is the founder and director of Coign Consulting, and which was established in 2005. And he is also the president of Warehouse Association of India. So we could not have had a person of more better credentials than Mr. Siddiqui to talk about this. But nonetheless, we have other two stalwarts. We have Mr. Kaushal Parikh. He is the CEO of Impact Floors, and he has done his master's in financial management from NMMIS, and it is his endeavor to create a company with a clear focus and visibility in offering cutting edge and state of the art solutions for concrete floors. So he has dedicated his entire life to spreading awareness of flooring, which so far was a small element in anybody's decision point. But he has been the front runner in creating this awareness in the industry, and now we see more and more people talking about the flooring first before they go in for the structure. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Vishnu Bhagwat. He is the general manager of Cascade attachments in India, and he has over 30 years of experience in material handling space. So now you can see that we have a panel who is completely capable of talking about intralogistics, and the words of wisdom coming from this panel will be something that the industry can imbibe. So, Mr. Siddiqui, I would like to start with you. We see that there has been a lot of evolution in the intralogistics space over the last 10 years. We have seen that happen. How do you think the space is going to pan out in the next 10 years?
Wow! First of all, thank you very much, and congratulations on this, third anniversary of, I would say, an extremely insightful program that you have been having month on month. I would like to personally congratulate you, Abhijit, as well as Abhishek, sorry, and as well as the overall Godrej company. Answering your question, I think I would like to say that it's been very, very interesting times for the logistics and supply chain and the warehousing, specifically industry, for the past at least 10 to 15 years. However, the pace at which this industry has been changing has been phenomenal. We have seen this through exhibitions, conferences, the quality and the subjects that are being covered in the conferences, the subjects and the type of equipments that we are seeing that are every year changing and improving, infusion of technology, and so on and so forth. What I see that is going to change, in the next 10 years is a situation where automation will start playing a very important role in the operations of a warehouse, which will bring another challenge to the industry, which is to do with skill development. What will happen is that I understand that robotics, conveyors, material movement, AGVs, automation, or autonomous vehicles, etc., are going to change the paradigm in way warehouses operate, which will also mean that unskilled activity, will get replaced. So therefore, it's going to be very imperative and important for organizations to see that they convert their unskilled employees, unskilled laborers into skilled laborers in order to be able to get alternate employment. So that's going to be one thing. Second is the type of skill that we will require is going to be the skill of drivers who are going to drive these equipments, machines, controllers who will control them, programmers who will program them, for the automation, and operators who will not only operate but also ensure safe operations. Because that is one awareness that will be very, very necessary in a warehouse for safe operations, especially when you have autonomous vehicles running around the whole place. So overall, a huge development in the skill and the type of people that we will operate. Second, huge improvement in efficiency and productivity. That means we will be able to do more in the same or less given space. Large number of cubic capacity optimization and utilization by going taller as infrastructure is going to become more and more expensive. Over the past 15 years, we have seen the cost or the rentals of a warehouse double or almost move by 3 times in certain locations. Fine. That is going to create a lot of impetus within tenants and landlords to increase the rate, and tenants to be able to utilize the cubic capacity more and more in order to be able to get the value for the money that they invest. So 3 important things that I see. Costs are going to be constantly on the rise. Now that is completely inevitable. The challenge that economies and businesses will face is that despite the increase in cost, how do I still make my operations relevant and cost effective? So cost will go up and cost effective solutions will become prominent. So that's going to be the major change that will take place in the next 8 to 10 years. Adoption of technology is another inevitable aspect. Fine. So software, WMSs, WCS, WES, these are aspects that will become the calls of time. And I'm sure we all will be present after 10 years here. And you will bring up the same subject that 10 years back, Mr. Siddiqui, you said so and so. We are there now. What's for the next 10 years? Okay. So I think this is where we are. And we are in a very, very exciting time in supply chain. The other good news is that supply chain has now started making its position in the boardroom, of many companies. It has become the value chain creator in the business. We have moved from go downs to go down to go up, and that's the big change that is happening. So my opinion is that we need to continue this journey. New innovations, new technologies need to be embraced, and supply chain managers and specifically warehouse managers, I think should be given the credit, of order fulfillment on time, relentlessly working to make sure customer delight and customer centricity is achieved. So there's a huge shift in the skill sets, huge shift in the way they look at this business and their operations, and it becomes the responsibility of leadership roles to bring this talent ahead, work on them, and keep them completely motivated.
Right. That's fantastically put. But I just have a follow-through question, Mr. Siddiqui, that your points make a lot of sense, and that is evident in this show itself, where we see unprecedented number of companies talking about automation solutions. So somewhere, when so many companies are presenting their automation solution, there is increasing level of awareness and to an extent an adoption of these solutions that is starting to happen. My question is, India, while any other country we can talk about, but India is typically a very price sensitive country. Is there still a business case for a company to go for automation right from a mechanization or from manual and jumping that space quickly?
Yeah, very, very nice question. And I think this is a dilemma that the automation service providers are continuously facing. Uh, Companies like us who do intralogistics designs and design warehouses for several companies and their operations, also face this dilemmas: how much do we design? Do we design for full-on automation, or do we design for something in between? Uh, Definitely, we should not forget the fact that as much as we may say that warehouses are value creators, they are at the end of the day a cost center. Okay, so there needs to be, designs have to be futuristic, implementation can be in phased wise manner. So I think we need to start biting just enough that we can digest. So it will be wrong on my part to say that companies need to jump from manual to completely automated, or mechanical to complete automated. There is something always in between. There are these shades of gray that you need to adopt. Fine. And that means that, for example, if you are having hand pallet trucks, BOPTs, stackers, then maybe you need to start migrating, little go up, little taller, and move on to a reach truck. Go a little taller, start investing in VNAs and narrow aisles so that you can crunch and squeeze the place. Similarly, instead of every time using an HPT, you can put a dumb roller conveyor so that it can reduce the number of people that are there in offloading. Start using telescopic conveyors to offload your trucks. So these types of baby steps, which will be able to actually address, the low hanging fruits in the business, where you can eliminate those large costs, are something that we need to be able to look at. And I would like to warn most of the material, the equipment sellers, that they should provide this guidance. Otherwise, the big time equipments will never sell. You will have a rejection. But if you really want adoption to take place, then you need to take those baby steps. You need to guide them in the right manner. However, wait and be patient, for the time to come when VNAs will also sell and ASRSs also will sell. But for the moment, the larger India Inc., as you see, really needs a lot of education, a lot of awareness. The, and I want to make one last point. Information and knowledge are two separate paradigms. You know, there's a lot of information available here, as you see. We've got more than 300 exhibitors and so forth. So information is there, but knowledge is low. There's that dissemination has to happen. We need to be informed, but we need to have knowledge of what is relevant to us and implement what is relevant to us, rather than implement on the basis of only knowledge or only information.
Very well put. So, just taking over from that point and going to Mr. Kaushal, Mr. Siddiqui spoke about taking baby steps towards going in for full-fledged automation, going for small steps and all that. But I think somewhere in that journey, the awareness about the quality of warehouses is very important. So how would you gauge the current level of awareness about quality of warehouses that's present in India, and what can be done to increase that awareness?
Thank you, firstly, to invite us on this knowledge series. And we wanted to congratulate Godrej for the third year anniversary celebrations. Coming to the question, uh, as Siddiqui sir has also mentioned, initially everybody's concept was go downs, right? That was the benchmarks for many years, I would say. Uh, Slowly, from the mid 2000s, people have started understanding the real value for warehouses and the performance requirements of warehouses, which need to be done as an infrastructure part. Um, we Coming from a flooring industry, we've seen specifications being adapted where people were talking about very conventional approaches, and now we're looking at higher performance specifications coming into play. You know, so I would definitely mention that the journey which we envisaged almost 20 years back, uh, we've seen a definite shift in the mindset of people, and also there is a sea change, I would say, in the infrastructure being built in the country. Um, right now, this pace is catching up. I would not say it's that breakneck speed, but everywhere which we go worldwide, there is talk of India. That what is happening in India. There is a lot of activity which is happening in our space. and we are making the right noises. The government is making all the right steps. I would say at least the efforts are being put in from infrastructure. If you look at highways infrastructure, ports infrastructure, all of these are connected. You're looking at rail infrastructure. You're looking at dedicated freight corridor, which is coming in. So you're looking at multi-tier, freight movement from point A to point B from each city. We're now talking about intercity warehouses within the city, which are going to be multi-tier. Everybody understands, at least in metro cities, the cost of land is expensive. But when you go multi-tier, the rental yield will be much more beneficial for the developer, and also for the end user. He will get more area to work with. Um, from automation perspective, also when you're looking at multi-tier warehousing, which is now slowly catching up, and that's going to be the future coming in, because when you're looking at automation, you're looking at AMRs, automated mobile robots. Uh, these will look at multi-tier warehousing coming into play, and in that situation, I feel the use of the infrastructure is going to be far better, with programs with a lot of organizations are now coming together. We have the Warehousing Association of India, which is now being largely adopted, and the government is recognizing this. Uh, they have taken industry stalwarts to add value in these specifications or the policies which are being created, and Gati Shakti is one of them, right? So that, I think the government is looking at an inclusive approach uh, from the industry as a whole. You know, when you're looking at specifications, even in industries, so when companies are building their own warehouses, they are looking at ASRS now as a media of or a usage perspective, because they want to use space. They understand space is a constraint, so that is definitely a major shift, I would say. Yeah. And also, many places, especially in pharmaceutical industries, we've seen mobile racking being adopted in a large way in food and beverage industries as well. So these are shifts. They understand that space is a constraint, and they need to look at better automation for specifications coming in.
Right. Okay. Very well put. So, I mean, if I summarize your thoughts, there is a much better awareness than what it was maybe 10, 15 years ago. And this is getting complemented by various government initiatives also in spreading this know how. But one element which remained common in these discussion is costs. Okay, so Mr. Bhagwat, how is the rising cost of real estate impacting the warehouse design according to you? Like being a attachment manufacturer, optimizing various applications and all that. How do you think this cost impacts a warehouse design? Does it impact it anyway, or it doesn't?
I would like to congratulate Godrej for third anniversary and inviting on this panel with Mr. Siddiqui and Mr. Parikh. So it's good for us. Now coming to your question about what I see the change over last 30 years, I can say probably 20 years in short. So I really vouch Mr. Siddiqui and Mr. Parikh that industry has seen a lot of changes over last 20 years. The days has gone where people used to put the products on the floor, and now they are going very up. Is because naturally the cost of the real estate has gone up drastically, and now people are moving towards like automations, like the concept came out ASRS or like mobile rack systems. It is the tool people are now trying to use because they would like to go up about 12, 13-meter high and try to utilize the full capacity of the warehouse. So we as a company from Cascade, we have developed some special tools. Those are typically meant for double dip storage system. So the days have gone. People were trying to put lot aisles in between two racks, but now with the concept of double dip rack, you can have a multi storage with a limited aisles. So we are providing a solution that can operate on one side with double dip rack. So one driver can take either one or two pallets at a time, and that he can really save his maneuvering time. Plus, it is going to save the cost of the flooring. So I could see that people are now investing into this concept of high-rise racks with reach trucks and narrow aisle trucks. Plus, we are the people who are giving those concept of special attachments or special support to improve the efficiency of the machine. My company philosophy is to operate safely, work in the safe environment, and minimize the damages to the product. So this is what we feel so. So I really want to congratulate both of them to give that inputs, and I think that answers to your question basically what are the things coming in the market.
Right, right. So, very well put, Mr. Bhagwat. So, if I try to summarize this discussion, so Mr. Siddiqui spoke about that automation is the way to look at, but there needs to be baby steps. Mr. Parikh spoke about increasing level of awareness being complemented by government initiatives, and you spoke about various value-adding solutions already getting adoptions like double deep reach trucks, high-rise systems, which shows us that people are not averse to adopting newer technologies. Now, if I just catch on to that one point about government initiatives like Gati Shakti, National Logistics Policy, infrastructure status to logistics sector, how do you think, Mr. Siddiqui, it is impacting the logistics space, and what would be the time span by when we will be start seeing the impact of these initiatives, or have we already started seeing that?
That's a very interesting ask or rather question. Uh, the National Logistics Policy was rolled out on the 17th of September 2022 by the Honorable Prime Minister as part of the PM Gati Shakti Master Plan. Uh, However, the government has been sensitive to the development of logistics for a very large part of time, very long time. The sensitivity of logistics as a department and creating logistics as a function in the government of India was an initiative that was probably taken almost 4 to 5 years back prior. So logistics has always and has always been identified for the past at least 8 to 10 years has been identified as a key industry that has a extremely important role to play in the development of the economy and the various manufacturing setups in India. This has also been one of the key challenges that the country has faced as far as foreign direct investment is concerned. Many companies, multinational organizations have refused to come to the country because they did not find the logistics infrastructure in place. We do not have good airports, good ports, seaports, road infrastructure. And the government has taken very serious view to this uh, right from the beginning, to make sure that we get the right roads, get right connectivity, our airports, expansion of the airports, cargo clearances at different airports, infrastructure at airports in terms of cold chain, etc., etc. So all that has been part of it. What does Gati Shakti personally on? I mean, what does Gati Shakti focus on? Gati Shakti's is to see that there is standardization in infrastructure. Okay, point number one. Towards which I'm happy to and really honored that I'm one of the authors to the e-handbook on standardization, fine, which actually tries to specify what warehouses buildings should be like, what are modern business technologies, and so on and so forth. We now are rolling out the second edition of that. That also has been prompted to us by the government and the DPIIT under the Ministry of Commerce to release the second edition. So work is happening out there. Skill development is another aspect of the Gati Shakti where the government is promoting the development of skill because it is already forecasted that with automation, with mechanization, unskilled labor in warehouses will diminish. Okay, which means that we need to start spending time, money, efforts, and resources to develop skill so that they are absorbed in the new skill that is going to be the order of the warehouse, so that we don't have unemployment per se. So that upskilling, is a very very good initiative of by the government, and that will also lead to a better quality human resource working in the warehouse. It will also attract people to work up in this warehouse, which is unfortunately seen as a very non-fashion not so, I would say, this has a very low X factor per se. So it's going to attract a lot of good talent in the warehouse. So that's another part of it. Digitization, fine, making sure that our processes are seamlessly integrated. Value chain is created where the vendor or supplier to customer is associated, and you create the complete information value chain is another aspect of digitization that the government is trying to promote. So these are two, three very, very important: road infrastructure, sea infrastructure, which is ocean infrastructure, and all that through the ULIP scheme, where you have the unified logistics infrastructure being put in place, where you can book a shipment by air, move it by sea, and then by road, and everything is seamlessly visible to the consignee as well as the consignor. So these initiatives are going to transform the way we do business in India, first of all, and the way we handle, transportation and logistics and warehousing. The third very important thing through the WAI scheme is that warehouses have always been hidden under the big name of logistics. Fundamentally, the government looks logistics has, and people look at logistics from a transportation standpoint. Whereas warehouse also has an extremely important role to play in the overall finished goods supply chain and the raw material of supply chain. What has happened now is that warehouse by itself has started getting highlighted. As Kaushal was saying, now we're spending millions of dollars are now being spent in creating large logistics park, and these millions and billions of dollars are all coming from private equity investors. Fundamentally with the condition that you need to have a standard infrastructure. So standardization of infrastructure, will lead to smoothing of processes, will lead to adoption of new technologies, new equipments. You can't be going and picking material at 12 and 14 meters height, by putting a ladder. Okay, you will require equipment. Equipment will require battery. Equipments will have to be sustainable. They have to be user friendly. So it's a whole vicious, value chain that you are actually looking at. And 12 meters is now going to be history. After 5 years or 10 years, we'll all be talking about 16 and 17 meters, because that's the next equipment level. I mean, from 12 meters, the next equipment level is 16 meters. So 10 years from now, 12 meters will be obsolete, and we will get into 16 meters. So all this is all going to be possible by putting structure to value. And once we start putting structure to value and value back to structure, you will see the overall evolution, and the face of warehouse will change. One more thing, Abhishek, is that on the vehicle side, if you see, the sizes of vehicles are going to change. So if you see 10 years back, we were looking at 9-tonner was the most prominent. 15 years back, 9-tonner used to be the prominent vehicle. Now the prominent vehicle in use is a 16-tonner, because volume has gone up. Fine. And slowly now you will start seeing 25 and 40 tonners will be the next. From 40 feet vehicles, we will start running. As roads become bigger, we'll move from 40 feet to 60 feet, like you have the double trailers abroad,
Yes.
So all this is going to put a completely new challenge even to the infrastructure.
Sure.
From 30 meters, you will have yards which are being 40, 45 meter yards, which are never heard of. So developers also will have to change their entire paradigm to accommodate traffic, which has always been at the backyard of the design. So people like us are trying to bring all these futuristic specifications to the front yard of design. We are designing new logistics park with new master plan. And also from a user's perspective, what are the challenges, safety, security, all those aspects are being considered. And government is taking a lot of initiative in trying to understand the pain points and challenges. How can we reduce the overall turnaround time? Can we move from multi-window to single window? So I think these are all initiatives that have to be taken. However, the execution of these initiatives at state levels and better representation by industry is something that is going to change, for which we have created the Warehousing Association of India. And as you are a very, very active part of that association, I think we need more and more people to join us, so that we can understand the deeper pain points and take that back to the government, who is very, very willing to listen to what we are saying. And finally, I think it's all the effort that we need to put if we really want something in return. So that's on the national.
Right. So I would just like to carry forward to Mr. Parikh your point that you made about setting up a warehouse association of India, where the industry representatives go back to the government with their expectations and their recommendations to make it a partnership sort of an approach. So, Mr. Parikh, what I would like to ask you is that while government is doing all these initiatives to finally bring down the overall logistics cost in this $30 trillion economy journey, what do you think is the industry's role, or what should the industry be doing to complement these initiatives?
So, as Mr. Siddiqui sir was mentioning about larger trader designs which will come into play, um, what we do feel is basically the industry should be looking at basically better specifications of the logistic park itself, because if we're looking at infrastructure coming into play, you're looking at basically the main foundation on which your materials will be moving, right? So whether it's a good floor, whether it's a good building, whether it's a good seaport that we're talking about, you're looking at quality of the infrastructure, right sort of construction materials coming into play, right sort of planning which goes into play, which is very important, in today's day and age, and that means with the right policies. So everything goes hand in hand, and with the private players, yes, the funding is important, and the government is doing its bit to ease the, let's say, ease of doing business, but to talk about the to adapt. Basically, it's for all the industry leaders and industry flag bearers, such as the Warehousing Association of India, to guide the industry to get into the right direction and to create, let's say, an inclusive environment where everybody is part of the decision making process. This is what I would take at. And what Siddiqui sir was also mentioning, when you're looking at specifications, well, floors are a major part in at least a warehouse space. And today, with the demands which may end up being 16-meter high, you're looking at floors which may end up being specified without joints. So where people are looking at performance requirements, the cost of repairing uh, spare parts, or having a downtime is going to be much more expensive than
Like a good flow.
and a good flow. So, and also basically fewer joints will lead to better performance, better throughput for the flow, uh, for the warehouse itself.
Right, right. Understood. So basically, what I take from you is that a warehouse association of India sort of associations can become like a bridge where there is two-way traffic, not only expectations from the government on heeding to their requirements, but also implementing the practices that are being promoted by the government. So I take that point, but then there is a third element which I would like Mr. Bhagwat to throw some light upon. The third element is the suppliers or the manufacturers or the service providers to this industry or to the user community. So there is a government, there is a user community, and then there is a supplier community, like people like you, us, who are supplying to this. What would be our role in making this a full grown approach where everybody has its role to play and finally it gets implemented? So what would be your thoughts on that?
They are into building nice floors, and a company like Godrej who makes machines of material handling. So it is like it's not individual, it's a team efforts. Government is pushing something to make it attractive, lucrative for the industry. However, there should be some kind of back chain, a back kind of efforts by the industrialists to ensure that it get implemented. Like example, Mr. Siddiqui quote about some features are coming into logistics. And I was feeling personally long back, although you have nice trucks, although people are trying to invest, but lorry which carry the load is not sufficient to take a forklift inside. So where it is a big lacuna in terms of system, there is a break of ecosystem. Like a warehouse has to perform well, then there should be a dock leveler. There should be a truck which can really park at that level, or it can carry the load of forklifts. Those things are still gap in industry. So I think there should be a kind of a equal importance for all the pillars of industry to ensure that we move forward in that aspect. It's not only bending with the government for any kind of aids or any kind of incentives, but should we create more awareness? Then only people can think, oh, it's really possible. Like I feel so far in India, people are not looking at the safety aspect of the warehousing, like cameras or maybe some sensor folks, like we could see some robotic machines. It's a change. It's a coming something like a new for Indian industry. So people are looking for those changes. But again, it's come to the cost. If costs are beyond the expectations, people will not invest on that. So we as the Indian industry manufacturers, we should see how we can collaborate and how we can bring something to the table where people can invest easily. And people are here to support them about designing implementation. So there's no big deal, I think so. So we as a partner of this industry, I feel there's a huge scope to work together. It's not alone, one can do it. So for sure, I think it's a good opportunity you bring us here and want to explain our thoughts on this topic. But very sure, if we clearly collaborate together, we can things make easily for us, for sure.
Right, right, right. So I think the point that I would take from you, and as a part of this supplier community or a manufacturer community, I think one of the role, as you have rightly said, is to spread the awareness and try to continuously give business cases to the industry that how it is feasible to move from manual to mechanization, mechanization to automation. And I think this was one of the genesis why this platform was built, Storage and Handling Knowledge Series, about 3 years ago, and which we are celebrating today. Now, this segment where I'm just trying to talk about certain uh, philosophy behind this platform and the milestones that we have created before we go for the celebration part of it. So this, as you know, we are celebrating the third year. So we started somewhere in 2019 when we were like in the middle of this lockdowns, and we were trying to get a connect to customers and all that. And one of the platforms we thought was a digital platform to get connected with customers rather than having that standard way of going and reaching out to people. The main intention being that we give back to the society what we have learned over these last 5 or 6 decades. And in that journey, we were so fortunate to get participation from the industry stalwarts. Like we have people from each of the panel members sitting here being a part of this platform and sharing their valuable knowledge on this platform. Just to talk about certain statistics, we have about 1500 companies which have registered, unique companies which have registered on this platform, and they have been a part of this community at some way or the other. We have 5,000 plus unique participants who have been a part of this community like over these 3 years, and this community is growing, and we have got quite a lot of encouragement, I would say, for us to carry on. And we have been doing this consistently, month after month, every month over the last 3 years without a single break in between. So, to bring this discussion to a logical conclusion, I would like to invite some closing comments from each of the panel members on what we have discussed so far on the evolution of intralogistics in India, and maybe your thoughts on this platform. That's the second part, and what more can be done under this platform which will make it more meaningful in the context of what we have been discussing. Because the important part that I would like to highlight is we have never used this platform to promote any brand, any product. It has always been pure knowledge sharing, and it has never been chargeable, or there's been no money for people to spend to come to this platform. So what more can be done with keeping that core genesis same to make it more meaningful and take it ahead for the next 3 years? So that is what I would like to invite from each panel members.
Great. I think phenomenal. Again, once again, congratulations, for completing 36 months of uninterrupted knowledge sharing. You know, uh, the very important part to the audience here or to the listeners is that it's been completely free. It's been brand free in the sense that it's not been biased, brand agnostic. I don't think you've spoken about your company, which could have been very relevant to speak about, but you haven't, and you've remained complete agnostic in every field, and with one objective: to share knowledge. So first of all, anybody who is in the knowledge sharing business is doing good to human and mankind. So I think from that point of view, congratulations, and I would like to give to all kudos to you, for your personal initiatives and the personal time that you've spent on it. Coming to the second point is related to the evolution of intralogistics. I'll just spend a half a minute or minute, on this fact that intralogistics is a science. Intralogistics doesn't come naturally to everybody. Okay, intralogistics is a science which doesn't also naturally come to a user community. Fine, it's like users of home are not the best designers of home. Yeah, so we should, and as we move towards this, when we talk about the 7 trillion, 30 trillion, 7 trillion, 30 trillion is not going to come on its own. It's going to come out because each of us is going to grow to that 7 trillion. So your turnovers are going to grow, your business is going to grow, your throughputs are going to grow, your inventory is going to grow. You need to invest in the science of intralogistics, which means you need to have the masterminds, the people who specialize in understanding throughputs, understanding capacities, understanding machines, etc., and therefore use all that inputs for the purpose of designing your layouts. So first of all, get to intra layout design specialists. That is first number point. Second point is that intralogistics is always going to be about people, but it will change the type of people that you need. As I mentioned, skilled people will become more in demand than unskilled people. That is going to be the third. And the fourth is going to be the people who manage the intralogistics. If the people who manage intralogistics do not change the manner in which they have been handling these operations to the new way of operations, they will get dismissed. And when I say dismissed, I mean they will become obsolete. Fine. So you need to they need to keep an eye on what is happening in the market, what are the technology trends, and what. Fourth, last point that I would like to mention is that supply chain managers will have to open their minds. They will have to appreciate the requirements of operations. They will have to ensure that they invest in their operations. Without investment, purely on block storage or on basis of the 15, 20-year-old methods and systems, if they feel that they'll be able to manage a doubled turnover or a triple turnover situation, then I don't think that they're in the right business. So these 4 or 5 things are very, very essential. Second is they need to form a part of associations, communities which are going to make them learn, which are going to solve problems. So I think this is the time when we need to create a lot of collaborative efforts. Fine. And it is the collaboration, either in form of associations, either you join the Warehouse Association of India or you have your own community, whichever way, it's going to be about representation. Government is willing to listen, but they want a proper representation. Associations lead to representation. Now I come to the last part of your question. What do you think is the future and what should we cover in the future? Fine. In my opinion, you would have collected a huge amount of feedback whilst you did these 36 sessions. Also you have seen the turn of technology. You have seen turn of equipments. How intelligence is now being built in equipments. Safety is being built on. Over a period of time, I would like you to spend a little more time on skill. I think we should start getting people to the machine side, people to the automation side, people to the technology and software side. I think the people element is something which is going to be very, very important. Otherwise, we will have investment in machine and technology, but we may not have the people to run that machine. The people to appreciate flooring, buildings, PEVs, clean room environment, air conditioning, attachment requirements. When will the demand of attachment come up? It will only come up if a warehouse manager knows that there is an attachment that can handle this thing. Otherwise, he will keep using jugaad. And Indians are the best in jugaad unless they know that this is something that is available. So I think knowledge from that point of view, which is a great initiative that you have taken in promoting knowledge, I think you should keep that on, and whatever inputs I could give from my point of view, I feel are going to be sustainable, and you will be able to, once you embark on them, we should definitely start looking at it from that point of view. One last point, maybe if it is possible, let's bring the practicality also to visibility. So this knowledge sharing has always been, a discussion like a panel discussion or a talk show between the two people. I think sometimes it may be helpful to some of the topics that you are covering. In order to make it easy for people to understand, there needs to be a practical show, a video clip of a conveyor. Otherwise, definitions in India are never are don't come to us naturally. You know, we end up in confusion. Like this language of English is not your language. Fine. So then you translate it differently. You build perceptions differently, and so on and so forth. And many of the people start operating and investing on their personal perception, which sometimes is a waste of money. So I think once start showing videos, how it is working, what do I mean by this conveyor, that conveyor, you know, uh, you start realizing and start building knowledge and skills from that. So that's my. I was just talking to somebody a few minutes back, and I said, "Do you know that there are minimum three types of? You have a belt conveyor, you have a roller conveyor, and you have a specialty belt conveyor." So they said, "Oh, I didn't know that conveyors are about. You can't use a belt conveyor where a roller conveyor is required. You can't use a roller conveyor where belt. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought these are just two types. I can choose any one of them." So what I'm trying to say is that fundamental knowledge, is missing, and then we suddenly go to graduated knowledge. When the fundamentals are weak, you will make wrong decisions. That's one important aspect.
Yeah, very well put. And I think those are very valid inputs and something which are very practical as well. So, Mr. Parikh, if you could, sir, just share your thoughts on the same points.
Well, as we've already mentioned, is basically this is a fantastic platform that Godrej has taken, and we feel that it's all about knowledge dissemination, which needs to take place. What I do feel is, as Mr. Siddiqui rightly mentioned, is probably focus also on the government initiatives that we are talking, and maybe get people to talk on that on the knowledge series, so that people on the platform can understand what is exactly happening on the macro level as well from the government's perspective. On a micro level, I mean, on each segment, I feel probably a specialty series you could run. That is something which, as a knowledge base, further dissemination of the technology which is available, and include more industry players to share their knowledge or share their business expertise on the platform. That, because as Godrej has been positioning this as a unbiased position, I feel that that would work very well on the overall growth of this series.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. I mean, both points are very valid. You spoke about coming up with some practical case studies which people are able to absorb, and you spoke about getting people from different industries and specialities to come on this platform and to maybe to spread that finer bit of knowledge sharing. I mean, rather than talking over overarching level, you go a bit deeper into that. So, Mr. Bhagwat, if you could add to whatever has been spoken so far.
Oh no, I just want to say thanks to Abhishek for you personally for inviting me on this panelist. They are veterans in industry, I know, and for me it's a really pride. But I can add some moment to this discussions. It is like we can't see one side of coin always, government and all those stuff. It is like I carry his point. Many times people not aware what's available in market, and you can't say it is all on Google or social media or like that. I mean to say, example. So it is like the companies who are into market, they need to train their sales engineers, their representative over sales, and they can talk to customer in that manner. This is the kind of product I'm going to offer to you. He may say yes, this is what I'm looking for, probably it can create a big chunk opportunity for new business. So I think going forward, it's not only one person can do it alone. It has to be a community effort by all. And then I would like to be part of this again in terms of I can say one of the valuable member to support something from my end, because I have seen some examples, some case studies where what Siddiqui is told correct, people are not aware as such. So we are the people who are in the field. We try to create that platform to ensure that they are aware and they can think of this option. It's a matter of only the time, I think so. People will definitely migrate to that situation very soon. And I will wish good luck to Godrej and you to really take it further for next 10 years at least. I don't know about next 10 years, but I can really wish you good luck for that.
No, thank you so much. That's well taken. So let me summarize this full discussion. We have covered a lot of points. So I'll try to pick up a few pointers from this, maybe which can be like a takeaway for people. And I would like to use that adage that you very rightly used, from going down to going up has been the trend over the last 10 years, and going up and further may be the future in the next 10 years. So for that, the next thing that we spoke about was that the awareness levels are really increasing, and that's an encouraging part. And those awareness levels are also being complemented by a lot of very positively intended government initiatives, and which are already on the rollout. They are not just on a policy page or something, they are on the rollout, they are getting implemented, and we are seeing that. And then we spoke about the roles that not only the government but the industry and the manufacturer supplier community has to play in this initiative to make intralogistics a very thriving space, which can add to that final mission of reducing the logistics cost of the country. Now, and I really thank all of you for complimenting, for your very kind compliments on this platform and your contribution to this, and your suggestions and things are, and comments are very valuable, and we are sure to implement that, because that is where we were looking at how we can make it a bit more fresher than what it has been so far. With that, we come to the end of this session, and we would like to conclude this with the thing which is most relevant for the third anniversary by the cutting of a cake. If I can have the honor of having all three of you to cut the cake along with us and be a part of this celebration.
It's a pleasure.
So, if I can invite all of you. So, Mr. Siddiqui. Yeah.
You are the man. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Storage. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
happy anniversary.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well done.
So, yeah. So, as a token of appreciation, I would like to just give this
Thank you.
small token. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhagwat, for your participation. And we just click a photograph.